Hi everyone, it's Pastor Amy. I'm here to share my thoughts with you for this week. As we meet Jesus in the readings for tomorrow, we find him after he has just completed the miracle of the feeding of the 5,000. If any of you are familiar with that story, you'll know that there were at least 5,000 people gathered on that hillside. Then Jesus fed them all to satisfaction with only 5 loaves and 2 fish, and there were over 12 baskets of food left over. It's a story about the abundance of God's action in the lives of the people. It's also a story about people coming to Jesus in deep need. The people who sought him out for that, sought him out that day, were not actually there initially to be fed by Jesus on bread and fish. They were coming because they had these deep needs that were eating away at them. They came for healing and for perhaps the chance just to touch Jesus and to be made whole again. Of course, we might expect a number of different reactions from the people who were there that day. We are told in the story that they were so moved by their experience of being fed at Jesus' hands that they tried to grab him and make him a king. And so he flees from there to avoid being forced into an earthly kingship. He knew that their impulse was coming from a place of that was genuine, but that also would have been for the wrong reasons and was not a part of what God's plan for him was. I want to talk today about that deeper hunger. It's partly what the crowds were feeling even that day when they came and were fed on bread and fish. But it's certainly a deeper hunger that I think all of us experience at some point in our lives. A hunger that goes beyond just the physical and the material. I've never really been hungry a day in my life. Have you? I mean, of course I've experienced an empty stomach or had hunger pangs, I've skipped meals. I've felt that empty feeling when you really want to just eat something and you feel ravenous. But I've never truly been hungry the way some people have. Even when we were growing up as kids and we were on food stamps and we had some food insecurity, I thankfully never went hungry. So maybe it's hard for us to understand the hunger of some people, the deep physical hunger that so many people around the world experience. But I want to talk about a different hunger too. And in John's Gospel, one of the interesting things is the way that Jesus repeatedly takes what is particular and tangible and material and shifts his message to what is essential and universal. And the other theme around that is that the people who hear him speaking in this way and making this shift are often confused and don't quite understand what he's talking about. But in the reading for this week, Jesus turns the people's desire for bread into an understanding of needs rooted deeper than filling our stomachs. I was thinking again about the absolute horror of what has happened for many migrant families that have been separated and put into different facilities, detention facilities or holding facilities. And, one of the comments that was made when, people talked about how cruel this was that these facilities were taking good care of the children that were there, that they had adequate food and shelter. But it's one thing that we know, it's like, they could have had all-you-can-eat buffets with the most nutritious food, and it still wouldn't have been what these children really needed or wanted. What they hunger for most right now is just security, reassurance, familiarity, and their parents. Jesus tells the crowd that rushes ahead to find him where he's tried to escape. I am the bread of life, and whoever eats of that bread will never perish. I know that there is a great need right now among us for feeding a deeper hunger. And even though I'm a pastor, that knowledge doesn't come to me because I read the Bible and I hear Jesus' words. I know about this deeper hunger because I feel it myself. I have days when I feel absolutely empty, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, just empty. When my deepest hunger is to know that I am valuable and worthy regardless of the output that I put into the world, to know that I'm valuable beyond the material output or the work that I do, how many hours I put in, or how good I think the work that I've done is, or even how good others think it is. That too often I value myself based on these externals, and I just hunger sometimes for this reassurance and this feeling that I am enough. I preach it to people. I tell them that you are valuable not because of the things that you do or anything, any way that you think that you need to earn that. You're valuable just because you're made in the image of God. But I have a really hard time believing it myself sometimes, especially when I judge myself as lazy or I feel lost and alone. So I want you to think about what you most hunger for. What is that deep, empty place that needs to be filled? What keeps you from accessing the fullness of life that belongs to you as a child of God? Although I don't strictly separate physical need from spiritual hunger, that is to say that sometimes being literally hungry is a sign of that deeper spiritual hunger. In many ways, I think that the crowds around Jesus just wanted to be acknowledged and respected in their lacking, to have someone hear them and see them and respond with words of love and promise, to acknowledge their humanity and that we all have needs that we hope will be filled. In this world where our hungers are fed by consumption of goods and acquiring more stuff, Jesus shows us another way, one in which all are promised to be fed with enough to sustain the abundant life that God promises. What are you hungry for? There is bread for your soul. And you are welcome to join us tomorrow at 11 or any other Sunday to be fed in loving community as we share the bread together that endures for eternal life. Thanks be to God. Amen.